here to tell us how an obviously impaired adult can be forced to get the help she needs is California family attorney Don Schweitzer, who has walked many families through these steps. Donald also is, I'm going to go ahead and confess it, my cheat sheet when I need to know about California law in the area of the family. He preps me, and I appreciate it very much. Counselor, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Star.
Thank you. Donald, if Britney's family thinks that because of some mental impairment she is in danger of hurting herself or someone else, is there anything that they can do?
Yes, to a certain extent, Star. What they can do is they can call the police and fill out an affidavit indicating that she's a threat to herself or possibly to others. Fill that application out. It's actually an affidavit, and it's submitted to the mental health facility. The police can then, based on probable cause, put her in the facility against her will, and she can be kept up to 72 hours. There's another, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, which is, without an affidavit, the police could do the same thing, and that was what we had with the 72-hour hold over this past weekend.
Yes, and there's another section within the California Code that allows people to petition the court to make somebody participate in outpatient assisted treatment. But I got to tell you, Star, after I've looked at the code and I look at this case, I don't think this case qualifies for that, because what they have to do is they have to show beyond, with clear and convincing evidence, that she is unlikely to survive on her own if she doesn't get this treatment. And we know that she's got a lot of resources, so she's not a real good candidate for that.
You know, it's interesting. Survive is relative depending on who you're talking to. Because, you know, if I were making that argument in one of my courtrooms in Brooklyn, survive for a woman who is addicted to crack with no resources and has 2 children at home and no job, her survival might be, am I going to eat and am I going to feed my child tomorrow? Britney Spears' survival, on the other hand, she has enough money to charter a G2 to fly wherever the hell she wants to fly. But by the same token, she may not survive in her world because of it. So is it relative, or do they really look at very specific criteria in making the decision?
Well, there's a lot of criteria, and each and every one of them has to be met. Mm-hmm. She has to have shown, they have to show by clear and convincing evidence that she has a mental disorder, that she's been hospitalized at least twice within the past year, that she's unlikely to survive on her own, and a bunch of other factors that the court has to find by clear and convincing evidence. I agree with you that it's a relative term, but think about it, Star, in Hollywood here, with all of the stars that are running around with drug problems and they happen to be bipolar, we'd have facilities and we have outpatient care for all these people all the time, and it's just not a realistic thing to happen for people like Britney Spears, I don't think.
What can her family do then? Because I know as I look through my little list, you now told me we could do the 72-hour hold. Clearly that didn't work. Assisted outpatient, that's not going to work. So I'm continuing to check off my list. But you've got a mother and a father and a sister and a brother, people who care about this young woman. Is there anything a family can do in a situation like this? Sure
there is, Star, and it's no different than any other family. Just because she's Britney Spears doesn't mean that her mental problems and her alcoholism should be treated any differently. People that are codependent should go to their own treatment, and they should learn how to deal with people that are acting out. What they should do is provide support to her, but in a healthy way. And to do that, they need to learn how to do that through, Al-Anon and other types of programs. Ultimately, Star, what Britney Spears needs to do is she needs to start obeying what the court orders. Mm-hmm. Take her medication if that's what was ordered, attend to therapy and things like that. That will ultimately get her back into her children's lives. But, you can't force people to do things. You know that from being a prosecutor and dealing with all the drug cases. Ultimately, it's got to come within. Britney Spears has got to make that showing in order to convince the judge.
And I understand you practice right in that courthouse, so you know. This is, as I understand this is a judge with a tremendous amount of compassion. His first and foremost goal is to always look out for the best interest of the child and try to keep a family intact. But at some point, even someone with his wonderful reputation is going to reach the end of his rope.
I agree with you. I mean, you have to at some point say, look, you're not going to have any contact. And unfortunately, the greater amount of time that passes between the time that Britney is acting out and the time that she gets herself together could be very detrimental to her, because there's a status quo that could be developed, and she may not ever get the type of visitation she wants if she doesn't act soon. But I agree with you, Star, that this particular judge has a soft heart, and he gives people second and third chances. He takes great pains in making decisions, and if Britney were to be in any court in L.A., this is the one that she should be in. She's fortunate for that.
Well, as you said, I mean, and I couldn't have put it any better, until she's ready to take responsibility for herself, nothing is going to help. Counselor, I want to thank you for joining me. I look forward to our next conversation on and off camera. My thanks to
Star.
Don Schweitzer.